Well, hello, Presbytery of Philadelphia. It is a joy to be with you, to hear from you, or at least to see a few of you as we host this conversation. I am your Associate Presbyter, Reverend Greg Klimovitz, and it's a joy to be able to introduce you today to a few folks as we talk about ideation and grant writing for faithful ministry possibilities. Today's webinar is brought to you by our Presbytery's Commission on Resources and Creative Ministries, which we are blessed to have as a presbytery that can become a primary partner for our 119 congregations and related ministries as you all discern faithful ministries and faithful possibilities to be a part of Christ's work in the world through creative and intentional extensions of the gospel. As a framing scripture, we have often used a particular text related to what it means to bear witness to Christ's work and what it means to lean in to the gospel. And I'll share with you a few images of those now. The story that we use is the casting of the nets to the other side of the boat. If you recall this story, it's a story where the disciples are fishing, and on one side of the boat, they keep casting their net and nothing happens. They catch nothing. But then Jesus from the shore dares them, invites them to tilt their eyes in another direction on the other side of the boat. And once they do, they pull up their nets and they have an abundance of fish. Our hope and prayer is that the Commission on Resources and Communications can be a part of that sort of work of pivoting your ministry, shifting your eyes maybe in a new direction, to begin to see things in a fresh way as you explore what it looks like to embody the gospel in your particular place, in your particular time, and especially in the midst of COVID-19. Our hope is that the CRC it can be a primary partner for you in discerning these possibilities. Today, we're going to spend a significant amount of time talking about the Covenant Fund, or at least most of our time will be spent there. But we also have a variety of other grants that we've supported ministries. But these ministries have funded, or these grants have funded ministries like one in Glading Memorial Presbyterian Church, a music camp that has responded to particularly low-income families over their summer. There's been grants such as one that has taken place at First Presbyterian Church in Ambler. They launched a preschool this past year. And this preschool has been able to respond to those who are financially insecure and cannot afford preschool programming. And they've seen a significant boost in their enrollment once they responded to those financial needs in their community. There's also the Welcome Church in Philadelphia, who has begun to explore what it would look like to combat homelessness in Philadelphia through the launch of tiny house communities. Similar ministries have happened in Seattle, and they actually have a board set up, and they've been even leaning into the office of the mayor to figure out how this could respond to homelessness in our city. There's a ministry of Valley Forge Presbyterian Church that has launched a community cupboard that has especially responded to food insecurity in the midst of COVID-19. We also have the They Lead program in Cedar Park Presbyterian Church that has empowered especially African-American youth in their neighborhood. And there's a significant amount of other ministries that have done so faithfully or have responded so faithfully to the needs of their community and their congregations as they've used grant dollars that we've afforded through the presbytery. One of the other grant possibilities that are out there are the Great Ends grants. You can apply for up to $3,000 of seed grants. The applications are available online, and they're for 4 different areas of ministry: peacemaking and advocacy, youth leadership development, ministry and leadership development, and the Care and Compassion Fund. What is great is that when you apply for either a Covenant Fund or a Great Ends grant, we always pair you up with a liaison, which you'll hear about later. And those liaisons are from this very commission, the Commission on Resources and Creative Ministries. And so I'm going to pull off these slides now, and I'm going to invite you to actually see some of these wonderful folks, these saints in our midst, who have been able to serve over the past few years on this commission and walk alongside these grant recipients. And so I'm just going to go by and have you just share your name as well as your church and the ministry that you maybe represent in your congregation. So I'll start here with Sue.
Hi, I'm Sue Fall. I am the pastor of the Forest Grove Church.
Rebecca?
Rebecca, I pastor Beacon Church, and also I'm one of the pastors at Old Pine Presbyterian Church.
We have Chris.
Chris Holland, pastor at New Spirit Community Presbyterian Church, and also the convening pastor at The Commonplace in Southwest Philadelphia.
Pete. You're going to have to unmute yourself. Somehow you're not on, Pete. There you go.
Okay. My name is Pete Scattergood. I'm an elder at Church on the Mall.
Beth?
I am Beth Bauer. I am elder from Flowertown Presbyterian Church.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Isaac, worshiping with the Ghanaian, United Ghanaian, an elder. Thank you.
So grateful for the gifts that you bring to our commission. And Betsy, even though you're not on the official commission, you are a gift to us all. So share who you are and the role you play.
I am support staff for the CRC. Today, though, I'm attending as Betsy Moyes, representing Jeffersonville Presbyterian Church. I'm an elder there because I have a question.
Great. And finally, Sarah.
I'm Sarah Cooper Seawright. I'm an associate pastor at Swarthmore Presbyterian Church, and I have the honor of being the moderator of the CRC this year. And so I'm going to take us to our next portion and offer, again, a warm welcome to all of you who are with us live and all of you who will join us at some point in watching this. We are excited about the Covenant Fund grant process this year. Your CRC has been thinking on their feet, and even before we got to this time of pandemic, we actually spent some time with application for the Covenant Fund. And so I just wanted to highlight for you, and I think Greg is pulling up the application information here. I wanted to highlight for you just a little bit about the grant, about the application this year that we've revised. If you have done the Covenant grant process before, note that we've done a little bit of changing of order and revising some of the questions. We've highlighted the narrative portion and pulled it up towards the front. And just the questions 1 and 2 are really eliciting the narrative of who you are, what you're doing, where your partnerships are, what your inspiration is, as clearly as you can give it to us. Following that, you'll notice Greg highlighted that we have often used that wonderful passage from John's Gospel in the past, but we thought that it might be actually more generative for you if you were to share with us what scripture inspires your ideating and your vision for this ministry. And so we're kind of flipping that and asking you to do the scriptural and theological work. What is really guiding how you are thinking about this ministry? And so you'll note that that question has shifted a little bit. And then really once you've done the narrative work and the theological work, then you'll see the nitty-gritty of the budget, including other funding partners that you're working with. The CRC is always and the Covenant Fund Committee is always really glad to see works of partnerships where you're drawing in others, where you're pulling on the relationships you already have. That always feels like sustaining and sustained work. So we are excited to see what partners you have. To the funding process this year, given our current situation in the midst of pandemic, the CRC really wanted to stand in solidarity with you all as you are thinking and seeing what's being revealed to you now in the midst of ministry that might not have been there before. And we're wanting to, we're going to make ourselves a little bit more nimble. And so this year we have actually 2 waves for the Covenant Fund. And you will see that information. June 5th will be the first deadline. And August 7 will be the second deadline. If you apply either time that you apply, you can apply for up to $15,000. And if you are going to apply in for the June 5th, we're committed to turning that around and hopefully being able to disperse funds in July. And then the same if you apply in August, we're hoping to turn that around and get funds dispersed in September. Again, the quicker turnaround is really intentional. We wanted to stand with you and give you the resources you need. We know that some of you may be saying, we need this right now. We need to get some funds for what's coming up, what we can be expanding now. And for others, you're like so overwhelmed with what's going on that it's hard to ideate and think and imagine. And so we're trying to give some space for that to come. Finally, I just wanted to say that we really want you to hear an emphasis on expansion of existing ministries. What are you doing right now that you can imagine in a new way? What partnerships do you have already that you've been yearning to pull on or strengthen in this time? And we're wanting to emphasize that this time is it's unique, and we don't want to add extra weight to you of creating something entirely new, but taking what is there and continuing to create and to revise and to reform. So, as you help you think a little bit about, as you think alongside of you, I'm going to pass it over to Beth Bauer, and she's going to take us just through a little bit of the ABCs of grant writing.
Okay, so the commission has put together this ABC list of grant writing for faithful ministries. And basically, it covers a lot of the things that Sarah has already spoken to that are in the grant application, questions you'll be answering. I see this as a list that you should refer to actually before you go to the application to make sure that you've thought through all the perspectives of how your ministry is going to take shape, and then you'll be prepared to answer the questions. So really quickly, we're going to go through the ABCs. And the first is A, for awareness of context. And this is the why question. What's the context that your ministry initiative is leaning into, and how will your proposed initiative be impactful to the community that you serve? What's the why behind your ministry? What are you hoping to do with it? The second B is for budget, and this is really important, the budgetary stewardship and sustainability. A detailed budget shows us that you've thought through the execution of your initiative and how you'll be a good steward of the funds. And also the sustainability part is when the grant money's been used up, how is the ministry going to be sustained? All of these are really important considerations. And I'd say that really to pay attention to the expense side of the budget when you're doing your grant application and you're considering your ministry, because that's where the most questions come up from our committee or from the review committee is how are the funds going to be used? Do we understand that you've put the thought into how this ministry is going to be executed? So that's really important. B is really important. And C is for collaborative and congregational partnerships. Sarah spoke to this earlier about how we really like to see relationships be strengthened and new relationships formed, and that doing ministry together is important. And any avenue for doing that, we love to see. So consider that and think about that and make sure you share it on your application. D is for distinct and imaginative. I know we've stressed this a lot in the past for the covenant funds. How is your ministry unique and creative? But also, as Sarah spoke to this year, it's how are you reimagining something that's already in place in terms of where we are today and how it might look different. So it's not just about being unique or creative, but how are you thinking differently now? Share that with us and help tell that story. E is for evaluate and communicate your initiative. Have you thought through what the goals are and how you're going to measure your success and measure the impact? And what are the metrics for that? Share that if you have that. And also, how are you going to communicate your story of impact out into the greater world so that we can all support and encourage and celebrate the impact of what you're doing in ministry? And then lastly, F is for faithfulness. How does the initiative live into our gospel calling and help advance the mission of the church? It's the last point on here, but really it's probably the first point that should be considered before you even start, right, thinking about the details of your ministry. So again, I encourage you, this is here in this deck, and it's also the sheet I think is on the website, the Presbytery website. Is that correct, Greg? So refer to that, particularly at the beginning when you're thinking through how am I going to share and the story in our application. Before you even get to the questions, go through this checklist and make sure you've thought about it from all these different perspectives.
Thank you, Beth. Chris Holland, I'm going to pass it to you to talk about how the CRC and the Covenant Grant Committee our support in this time.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So we understand that sometimes it can be nerve-wracking when trying to put together a response, creating a new ministry or expanding a ministry and submitting that to a committee for review. But we want you to know that you're not alone in this process, that when it comes to us, you are assigned a liaison who really is your companion on this journey of expanding your ministry or creating a new one. And what that means is that as the committee discusses what it is you're trying to put together, we may have questions, additional inquiries, and there are ways that we can help you outside of what the committee can even do. And that is what is your liaison is there to do. We are your lifeline into deeper ways or deeper thinking of what you're trying to achieve. So we'll come back with additional questions to say, hey, have you thought about, this or that, or longevity, expansion? And we also may have other resources that we could refer to you that's outside of our boundaries, but there are other churches or other foundations that might be applicable to what you're trying to do as well. So we'll bring those into the conversation. A liaison will also try to do a site visit and come and put eyes on what it is you're trying to do, what you're doing already, and or the space and place where ministry is going to happen. And we continue with you through this journey, even to the following year where we do a follow-up to see how has things transpired, how did the ministry work, how the people that you were impacted, and we will request, pictures and updates so that we can share that with the greater good of the Presbytery, so everyone can see the great work that's happening and how the committee has been able to help fund and or just give resources to help you through all the things that you're trying to achieve within your ministry setting. So your liaison, again, is your lifeline. We will be here. We are here to help you do all the things you're trying to achieve in your ministries.
Thanks so much, Chris. And you'll see the slide that Greg put up too, particularly in this time of when we're looking at the Covenant Fund. One of the great ideas that Ashley Rossi, one of our members who couldn't be with us today, brought up was making ourselves available in a maybe 2-on-1 capacity, so that if you've got questions, if you've got ideas you want to pass by us, if you've got I don't know, any of those things. If you reach out to us, I think Betsy was going to put in the chat box what the contact would be. If you can go on the website, you can see a way to reach out to the CRC and set an appointment. We can do a Zoom call like this, a phone call, but that we can, as Chris so well said, we can walk alongside you, journey along with you, help you to think through some of the things that you're thinking about. And that's one way that we can really be a resource for you in this time. So I think that that is the most of what we have right now in terms of our webinar for grant writing. And I'm going to turn it back over to Greg Klimovitz.
Well, thank you so much to the members of the CRC for sharing your wisdom and insight. And before I kind of wrap up, one of the things that I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and come back to you all. But wanted to see if any of you all had any comments that you wanted to add as members of CRC. If you do, just kind of wave your hand a little bit, and we can, if there's any insights that you would like to share additionally, that would be fine. Also, for those of you that are joining us, if you have a question that you would like to ask, actually, I see one from Betsy. Here's a question. We have an existing ministry in the homeless shelter at the state hospital in Norristown. Once a month, we prepare and serve a full meal and provide full worship service. Costs for food preparation now have to include safety processes and packaging. In addition, the shelter is more open to all who are hungry, not just homeless. Would that be considered an extension of an existing ministry? That's actually a great question. So Sarah, I'm sure you have some insights, but I'm not sure if we want to kind of turn that to someone else on CRC as well.
Yeah, I'd love for feedback from others.
That would seem like an extension to me. I mean, the baseline program is still there, but there's new components that are being added to it. So it's different than the original, but not a completely different thing. And that's kind of how I would understand an expansion or extension, is kind of a new element coming in, versus just like, this is what we've done for the past 3 years and we're just continuing, or this totally separate, instead of food, it would be this or something like that. So that's how I would understand it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Becca.
I agree. I also think that it lives into what we've been talking about, is how do you reimagine it in your ministry in the face of the pandemic? And I think that's a perfect example of how you have to rethink things. And it's hard to start, like you were saying earlier, Sarah, it's hard to start something brand new right now because we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like, let alone 3 months from now or 6 months from now. But this is a need that's right here, right now in front of them. And I would see it as an extension and something new.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'll actually build on that a little bit, Sarah. One of the things that I think has been a gift of this commission is reminding our congregations and ministries that these grant dollars didn't come out of thin air. These grant dollars actually belong to the Presbytery of Philadelphia, which is each of you, is the Presbytery's churches and minister members and elders and all. So you're applying for dollars that belong to you. And so what makes this commission unique is that we're trying to help you in your ministry first and foremost, and then steward the dollars of our grant programs to support your ministry. So one of the things that we consistently say to you is that we are your partners. We want to help you get these funds. And so when we give you insights to our liaison work and everything related to pivoting, it's because we want to help set you up to be the most effective and sustainable and faithful representations to Christ's work in your communities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Betsy, and for everybody who answered. And I think it makes me think of too, it's interesting how ministry builds on itself when we really do continue to expand and extend, because it's one question that leads us down a pathway, and then there's another question that comes up and that leads us further, and there's another question. So, how are we adapting to fit this new reality? And it's a reality that's going to be a long reality for us. And so it'll be fascinating in a year to look back, and see what this ministry looks like, and what you've learned now that you've been able to open up to even more folks, and you've been able to shift and pivot a little bit. what the next pathway that'll be open, what will be revealed to you after this. So thank you for that, Betsy. Are there any other questions from folks who are here currently, or any other comments that anybody would like to make? Great. Well, this is going to be available. This is going to be available on the website. It's, you know, it's on the church, on the Presbytery's Facebook. And so we hope that if you are joining us, you can go back and view it for whatever's helpful, that you'll reach out to us, that you'll pass it along to those that you know who might be interested in learning a little bit more about this. Greg, did you want to add anything else?
The only thing I will share is just take advantage of the opportunity to give you a few updates on things that are coming up for the Presbytery, especially in this time of COVID-19. One, we have learned that we have over 140 already pre-registered for this Saturday's stated meeting. It's the historic virtual gathering of the Presbytery, and it's also going to be historically shorter than other Presbytery meetings. It's going to run from 10 to 12 with worship and business. Registration and sign-ins to the Zoom platform will begin at 9:15. But we're asking all of our minister members, commissioners, and guests to pre-register as soon as possible. If you can do so by Thursday, that'd be great. And you'll receive all the related information there. It'll be a chance for you to see folks that way too. We're really looking forward to it. Also, while these have been an information session on ministry grants, I do want to at least take the opportunity to share with you that there are other grants available. On our website, on our Commission and Resources and Creative Ministries page on our homepage, we have about a 7-page document on all kinds of resources that are out there. Chris alluded to those as we seek to, it's a great line, be your lifeline in grant writing and resource discovery. And there's a ton of information there about stuff from Synod, from General Assembly, Presbyterian Mission Agency, other churches, the city, you name it. We want to help you find those grant resources. And Betsy just put the link in the chat room so you can see it. But we also often get the question, well, what about capital grants? What about the daily grind of what we're dealing with? And while our grants through the CRC are related to ministry grants, we do have, especially in the midst of COVID-19, we have made available emergency grants and low interest loans through the Presbytery to help churches in the midst of this uniquely difficult and despairing time. And you can apply for upwards of $10,000 and low interest loans. And if you're looking for information there, I believe Betsy can put that link in the chat as well. If not, you can just contact us. She is fast. Well done. So it's in there. And we've had a significant amount of churches already apply for those as we partner with you in the midst of this time. Again, I cannot celebrate this team enough. So grateful for those that work faithfully to be your partners in ministry ideation and grant writing. If you need anything, reach out to us and know that our prayers are with you. So stay tuned and get those applications in.
Yep. And I'm just going to offer a final just blessing on all who are with us and hearing this, that God would be in your eyes and in your hearts and in your minds, revealing what God is doing through you and your ministry. And we give thanks for you. So thanks for joining us.
Amen.